It's a Saturday. I've got plans, but I'm on call. You know how it goes. Those plans are done. I'm on my way to a birth. I drive to St. Paul, up over the high bridge, over the Mississippi, into a small residential neighborhood. There's a small brick building, very inconspicuous. You think maybe there's a person who's done taxes for other people for 30 years in that building. But what's actually happening inside those walls is the most wonderful, ordinary miracle, hundreds of times a year. I'm a birth doula. I'm at a freestanding birth center, and I park in the back. I've spent hundreds of hours at this birth center. As I walk in, there's a lobby. Folks are waiting to be seen for their regular prenatal care. That's not where I'm headed. I'm actually headed to the right, down a dimly lit hall, where there are some sounds coming from the end of the hall. I wait at the edge of the door in the hallway for the sounds to subside and then knock softly. It's Sarah, can I come in? I hear something that sounds a little bit like a sigh and a yes, and I know it's okay for me to come in. In the room, it looks a little bit like a hotel room. There's a plush bed, there's a nice standing shower, there's a hard-plumbed tub in the corner. It also looks a little bit like a clinic. It also looks a little bit like someone's bedroom. In these freestanding birth centers, which are often associated near hospitals, but not explicitly associated with hospitals, certified nurse midwives are helping people give birth vaginally. It's all the kind of birth they do, and they do it really well. In the middle of the room are standing Katie and Jason. They weren't able to join us here tonight, but they did give me permission to use their names in this story. They're doing something that looks a little bit like a slow dance. Her arms are wrapped around his neck, his by her hips, they're swaying. And I know we're well into labor because she can't lift her head to meet my gaze, but I know that she's happy that I'm there. I place my hand on her lower back, soothe her with words, with kind touch, and tell her what an exceptional job she's doing. You see, Katie has been in labor for quite some time. Early that morning, her water let go. And instead of rushing into the birth center, her midwives decided it was okay for her to stay home for a while as long as she was still feeling the baby kick regularly. And so she and Jason decided to go for a walk in the cover of early morning before the neighbors started looking out the window being like, why is that lady hunched over in the road? We had decided ahead of time what Katie could do to distract herself in those early labor times, and she had decided on hand-making cinnamon rolls from scratch. Now, I don't know what happened to those cinnamon rolls. Either they were made and baked or abandoned mid-progress, but when I got to them, there were no cinnamon rolls in sight, nor could Katie maybe even think about what a cinnamon roll was. You know, everything I've described to you so far is by design. Oxytocin is the hormone that is responsible for helping people have an efficient labor. It's a poetic hormone. You see, it's also the hormone that allows us to feel safe and secure and attached and loved. And so the cinnamon rolls and the walk and the comfy bed, all of this is by design. Also by design, and kind of done according to the sphincter law, is what I've described up until this point. Yes, I said the sphincter law. Humans have lots of sphincters in their bodies. Their eyes open and dilate or contract based on what they're perceiving around the room that they're in. Their esophagus, their mouth, anus, cervix, and they all talk to each other with this walkie-talkie style system. It's like this. Anus here, guys. We never met any of these people before. The lights are really bright out here, and we're not quite sure about this place. I think we should shut it all down. High and tight, high and tight. Roger that, anus. Now, on the other side, it can work in the opposite. Hey guys, cervix. Everybody's looking really good tonight. They came dressed to impress. The oxytocin is flowing. We've seen most of these people before. It feels good in here. Everybody, open the windows, open the doors. Let's do this thing. Roger that, cervix. So this is essentially the scene that I come upon. This is a very common scene to come upon at a freestanding birth center. And it's working. The oxytocin is flowing and the tub is half full because she's already starting to sound like she's grunting. And so we assume that the pushing phase is gonna go as well as the rest of it has gone. Katie gets into the tub. We don't tell her what to do. She just moves with the water and moves with her own intuition. And 1 hour of pushing turns into 2, and 2 turns into 3, and we've refreshed the water as many times as we can. It is stale in this room. The water's murky. The fresh fruit that we've put out is now warm. Sphincters are starting to close, you guys. So I do what I can to help compassionately steer the birth in the direction that we hope that it can go. And I use one of my very best doula tools. I intervene and I say, you should go sit on the dilation station, also known as the toilet. It's a simple intervention, but it is an effective one. It's a supported squat, and we have some experience releasing in there, am I right? It's also private. So she and Jason get out of the tub. It's a journey of 10 paces, but when you've got a baby, you've been 3 hours into pushing. It is a journey to get into that bathroom. They slide the pocket door shut. And because we do not want to invite fear, who's waiting just outside in the hall, into this room, we wait until the door slides about 90% closed before the midwives and I exchange some looks. What are we gonna do? Everybody's vitals are great. Why isn't this baby coming? We give it some time. We don't go in the bathroom. We let her cry. We start to refresh the room. I throw that dank plate of fruit out, top up all the waters. The nurses bring a little step stool and they start to hook pink silk sheets to a carabiner that is screwed into the ceiling in a beam, and the sheets pool on the ground, and underneath the sheets they set a squatting stool, which is like a toilet seat with legs on it. And as we give Katie the time that she needs, the privacy she needs, we hear a sob that transmutes into a moan, which then turns into a growl, and the air electrifies. Because if you spend time with people who give birth, you know that when we're close, the air changes. The midwives put their headlamps on. The LED candles are still going. Now, while what I'm explaining to you is not extraordinary in this setting, this birth at this place with this person was extraordinary because of who Katie is and who she comes from. You see, just down the hill, her mother, who's a labor and delivery charge nurse, is waiting. Her 2 sisters, who are labor and delivery charge nurses, are waiting. The only birth center birth that they have interacted with are the ones that either voluntarily or must transfer down to the hospital. But Katie also works at this hospital. She's the chaplain on the labor and delivery unit. And the only birth that she has interfaced with up until this point is with families who are grieving babies that have come too small, too fast, too soon, not fast enough. That is a lot of closed sphincters to overcome, you guys. So many. So in this moment, when we hear the cervix at full dilation, when we hear that sob turn into that moan, turn into that growl, and Katie pulls that pocket door back, her curls have fallen out, tumbles of brown and gray ringlets. There's not a scrap of clothing in sight. She stalks up to these silks. And she runs them between her hands as she gets as low as she can. She's almost touching the birth stool, but before she sits down, another huge wave comes, and she puts the pink silks in her mouth, and she pulls and she bites, and she gets as low as she can. And her midwife's cheeks hit the floor, and the headlamps are looking for a crown. And her husband is there, like scaffolding with his arms around her. And her doula is there, witnessing this incredible everyday miracle. And then Jasper is there, all 10 pounds of him. 2 weeks later, we're together at their home. It's Katie and Jason and Jasper, and Grandma is there too. Charge nurse Grandma is there, and she's taking care of the baby. And in this 2-week session, I teach families how to wear their babies, especially if they are 10 pounds babies. And I do a mental health screening with them, both parents. And I do a storytelling session with them. And I help them process not just what order did things happen in, but like, why did it happen that way? And how did they feel about it? And maybe what were their parallel experiences in the same room, but very different? And I also ask to reflect some of my own witnessing back to them. And so Katie says I can when I say, can I tell you what I saw when you came out of that bathroom? And she says, of course. And I said, honey, when you stalked up to that birthing throne and your hair was down and the sound of your throat let us know that the baby was there, you were a lioness. You are a lioness. And her eyes dilate. And unblinkingly, she looks at me and she said, did I tell you the song I listened to every single day in the parking ramp on my lunch break at work to overcome the fear of my family and my profession and my own self to give birth to this baby outside of the hospital? And she walks past me and she pulls a CD out and she runs her fingers down to song 4. Lioness. It's a couple years later. It's an entire pandemic later. For me, it's a divorce later. And I am on my way to what I think is a business meeting. You see, I'd picked up this postcard a couple years before for a postpartum care worker, and I thought, I've been in this business for 10 years, almost 500 babies at this point. How do I not know these people? I looked again. These are my people. And so I'd been trying to get in touch with these folks for many, many months, but all the things I just mentioned had been getting in the way. Finally, the business happy hour is here. I make my way into the bar. I sit down. I'm too heartbroken to be on a date. I'm also too unarmored to tell anything except the truth about myself. And so this woman and I sit and we talk and we share and we notice our intersections. We are both late in life bloomers. We are queer women. We're single moms. We have children that are teenagers and almost teenagers. We help people give birth and take care of them after birth. I'm a poet, she's a musician, and she mentions this, and I'm thinking, no, you're not a musician, you're a doula. That's what the postcard said anyhow. And we start to talk about creativity, and I say, have you ever written something and you think that it's about somebody else, but it's really about you? And she said, yeah, as a matter of fact. I wrote this song, and it says, there's nothing as dangerous as a woman who knows herself. There's nothing as powerful as a woman who knows herself. She said the song's called Lioness. I thought, oh God, I'm on a date and I'm in trouble because I'm already in love. And that word, lioness, made it safe for me to proceed on my journey of authenticity and love again, and relationship. Rachel and I got to spend 2 beautiful years together. We broke up recently. But the great news is, guys, We're back together. She's here to sing you the song tonight.